Where have all the fun summer cars gone? All the modern day cars seem to be loaded with technology, hybrid, of course, electronics, big screens. So where are the good, honest driving experiences? Well, you know what? I'm going to break this down, give you 5 of my personal favorites, and you're going to love these. The first one, of course, right here is the BMW M2. The M2 is just a smaller, shorter wheelbase. I've always loved the M2. These come with a 3-liter inline 6 55, which is essentially a tuned-up version with 365 horsepower. Very similar engine you're going to find in the X3s, the 3 Series, 4 Series, 5 Series cars, but it's got a hotter tune. Yes, in fact, these cars here produce enough power to go 0 to 60 in about 4.5 seconds. You can get a couple of different gearbox options. You can get a 7-speed DCT, or even better, a 6-speed manual gearbox. The beauty is this is older technology from, the 2017, 2018, where they didn't have the big screens. They didn't have all of that electronics. They didn't even have subscription services. These BMWs were absolutely amazing, because these early style BMW 2 Series cars, but specifically the M2s, had all kinds of great performance. But it wasn't just about the 0 to 60 times, a quarter mile times that were down around 13 seconds. It was also about the handling. I mean, you have a shorter wheelbase. These were a 2-door car. Of course, you'll notice the M2 badging. You'll notice the deep dish wheels. This one's been slightly modified. It's absolutely gorgeous. You can see it's slightly lowered. They put some nice updates, high gloss mirrors. Of course, these guys had gone ahead and done this great little top toolie box. But look, big wing on the back. Of course, little vents. Beautiful LEDs on the taillights, and a quad set of exhaust tips. This one here is an upgraded carbon fiber rear lip or diffuser, but these are absolutely gorgeous cars. I've always loved the M2 because of its honest, pure driving experience, and because this is the older generation, you're not worried about things like Tesla with the big screens that control your entire car. You are in control of this car. Yes, you can even run these into a curb or unfortunately have a shunt, because if you're not careful with that kind of level of performance, this could leave you down a world of hurt. But cars with the beautiful angel eyes and of course the kidney grills means this is, again, one of the most honest, truest driving experiences from BMW you can honestly go. Here, there's also a later version of the M2, which also provides you the M2 competition, which also has the S55 engine, which is a detuned version, just over 400 horsepower for some of those lovers who love the M3s and M4s, but they want something smaller and a little bit more sharper. These are amazing cars, love them, always have, and these are one of those that definitely says bye-bye to any of these modern day techie loaded cars. The next one right here is another car that I've loved for a long time. This here we have a Shelby GT350, and this comes with a naturally aspirated 5.2 liter flat plane crank V8. Under the hood, the Voodoo engine that produces 526 horsepower and a lot of torque. The beauty is manual gearbox only, 6-speed Tremec gearbox, driving all your power to the rear wheels. There's no big screens, there's no all of that automated electronics, and there certainly isn't hybrid drivetrain. This is a true honest driving experience and amazing for that summer drives. Would you drive these in the winter? Hell no. They're too dangerous, they're too powerful, but they're a lot of fun in the summer. Here you have the beautiful GT350 logo on there, and it's by Shelby. If you want to step up your game, there's also the GT500, which is also a 5.2 liter supercharged V8 that produces a way more power than this, to the tune of 760 horsepower, but only has the DCT 7-speed gearbox in the GT500. Also looks very similar, slightly more bulging, slightly more aggressive. But what I like about this is it's true honest. It doesn't have all of the glitz and glamour and electronics. It's a basic car. GT350, look at this car. All the beautiful vents. Beautiful, you've got the name brand calipers, cross-drilled ventilated rotors, beautiful wheels. Love that style of rim. Carbon fiber rear wing, of course, for downforce. You have the rear diffuser that's carbon as well. And again, the GT350 means this car isn't just your garden variety Mustang. Can you get similar performance in modern day Mustangs? You sure can. The Dark Horse is definitely the closest thing to this. But this is a true authentic Shelby car, and certainly will provide a little better value retention for the future. Definitely any of these modern day Shelbys, I love them. And this one, because it's a manual gearbox, doesn't have all of the tech gadgets, the big screens. This means this is one of the best summer cars you could possibly ever dream of. I love these cars, and I know if you test drive one, you'll love one too. Right there's one of my personal favorites, Audi. Now, I'm not normally an Audi brand lover, but these cars here actually provide something very unique. Sure, you've got the all-wheel drive system, but it's not the typical Quattro system. It's a Haldex system, which means it's a lot more performance-oriented. It's not necessarily meant directly for snow and ice. It definitely provides a lot better driving dynamics if you're really into the enthusiast driving experience. The sad part is these have gone away a couple of years ago. The good thing is you have a 7-speed double clutch gearbox in these cars, and even better, you get the turbocharged 5-cylinder in the front that's essentially got a massive racing heritage. That is an amazing engine under the hood. Of course, it is front-wheel drive based on a Golf platform. It is a good, honest, tried and true platform. Of course, 0 to 60, 3.3 seconds. This, in fact, does provide almost 400 horsepower under the hood, but you do get a lot of great touches. Look at the big open gap there on the dual exhaust tips. Of course, you get the nice wing, and I love this gas filler here on the TT. Beautiful car. You get all kinds of aggressive rocker panels there, and of course, RS badging on the calipers. Beautiful LEDs on the front. Look at the front grille. This car is stout, quick, fun, and very energetic. I've driven these cars, and I even almost made an offer of one. If it weren't for the sales guy that was trying to give us a runaround, I would be driving one today. The beauty is with back seats, you get the all-wheel drive system. This essentially is an RS3 in modern day skin, but with a slightly less practical experience. It's fun, fast, furious, but no big screens. They have a great MMI system, and they've gone slightly digital in these cars, but this is the early generation before Audi went absolutely nuts with all of their electrical system. This is still slightly of the older dynamic, older generation. You go far enough back, you get the original TT RS, which was a manual available, and it didn't have the tech heavy gauge system like these modern day ones do. That being said, no big screens here, no hybrid drivetrain, just a powerful turbocharged 5-cylinder engine that produces 400 horse. Another one of the best driving experiences and best summer cars that you can possibly imagine, at least until things start going off the rails with the rebrand. Unfortunately, that's changed the trajectory of the organization, but this car here, the Jaguar F-Type, is definitely one of those cars that you need to drive, you need to try, and there's nothing like it. And it's not often that I say a car that's equipped with an automatic transmission is actually worth owning, but the ZF 8-speed automatic shifts in 200 milliseconds, which is lightning fast. The fastest dual clutch gearboxes are only shifting at 120 milliseconds, so it's almost as quick as a double clutch gearbox in most performance cars. These are absolutely glorious. I had a Jaguar F-Type R a few years ago, and this one here's the SVR. This one steps up an extra 25 ponies, gets you titanium exhaust, but even my car was absolutely glorious. They both feature a 5-liter supercharged V8 base. The F-Type R gives you 550 horse. This one here gives you 575 horsepower. Absolutely amazing car. Love it in every way. The SVR also gives you that little gap right there, whereas the R does not. But other than that, it's primarily the same car. Glass roof is what I had. You can also get it carbon or painted, and of course you get the beautiful carbon fiber wing on here. This one tells you it's an SVR, which is the top trim. You get quad exhaust tips on both models, and the big bulging hips. Absolutely a gorgeous car. The interior is beautiful too, but this is still from a generation where it carries over from the XKR, and these are some of the older models. They just literally do not have the types of interior finishing that a lot of modern day cars now have, with big screens, wide screens, all kinds of electronics and gremlins. As a matter of fact, many people touted the interior of these cars being slightly dated and the electronics being slightly dated as well. And I think that's a win, especially by today's standards, because most cars have these big flashing screens and LEDs and faults and codes. These didn't really have much of that. Yes, the maintenance was a little bit pricey on these cars. You know, you could spend $1,500 to $2,000 a year. They weren't cheap. But with that level of performance and the screamy, shouty type of exhaust note, there's almost no cars like this on the market today. Good, raw performance car with an 8-speed ZF automatic that shifts lightning quick, almost like a dual clutch. And that engine, it's to die for. I love these cars. And even the day that I sold mine and I gave that key to the next owner, I knew there was sadness. I was in tears. Literally, it was a sad day for me. These cars are in fact built primarily of a lot of plastic, aluminum, and for the most part, they generally don't rust. There's a little cross member at the back underneath that has a propensity to potentially rot, but other than that, these cars are built like a tank. They're fast, they're furious, they're a little heavy, but boy, they handle and carry their weight extraordinarily well. Yeah, you get big, great brakes on these vehicles. You get an interior that is beautiful and plush without being overdone. And honestly, there's very little I can say that I wouldn't suggest buying one of these. Sure, the only thing now is unfortunately the servicing is a little harder to come by, where of course what's going on with the future of Jaguar, but these are truly some of the best, brightest performance cars you could imagine. As a matter of fact, when I bought my F-Type R, I test drove this with a back-to-back with a 911 Carrera S, and I actually like the F-Type R better, if I can say that. I know it's a tall order. A 911 is always an amazing car, and I love the 911 Carrera S, but I just love the F-Type. It called my name. These are cars definitely worth buying, and definitely a little old school and a great summer car, and one you definitely wouldn't regret. The next car that's truly one of the most authentic driving experiences, an amazing summer car, and honestly, something that will be missed in years to come. Now, any Porsche 911 is always a great buy. As a matter of fact, like many people say, what's the best Porsche 911? It's the latest one. But some would argue because the latest ones have a lot of technology buried underneath, and the 991 generation was just that generation where things were starting to become on tech overload. A lot of safety features, ADAS systems, and it was becoming a very complex car. I love the 991 the way it looks, but truly the best driving experience comes with the 997 Generation 2. Now the 997 generation of the 911 started in 2005 and ran up to 2013 in the final and second updated iteration. In 2005, 6, 7, and 8, you had the first generation that had the M96 flat 6 engine, and there were some issues with those timing chain problems, and they weren't perfect. They were amazing cars, but what actually made these cars amazing and why a lot of the forums are saying the second generation of the 997, like we're looking at here, is truly the best 911 experience. Why? Because most of the naturally aspirated cars like the Carreras and the Carrera S's were just like that. Naturally aspirated. Now Carreras feature twin turbo 3 liters. These ones here, in fact, were naturally aspirated. 3.6 or 3.8 or even 4 liters in disguise. The beauty with these cars is they didn't have a lot of technology. Then in 2009 is truly where things got good, because that's where they improved some of the issues you had in the early generation of the M96 engine. And of course, things just got better from 2009 and up. So whether you decide you wanted to buy a Carrera, a GTS, or even an S, they're all great cars. But the turbo actually saw some major enhancements, because back in around 2009, they went to second generation of the 997 turbo. And with that, they scrapped the Metzger engine and they went into a redesigned engine. Of course, now, you also had at that year, you received the dual clutch gearbox called the PDK, because before that it was a Tiptronic in the automatic version of the turbos. And ultimately the Carreras like this and the Carrera S and the GTS were all, again, as I've said, naturally aspirated. There was also no big screens in the dashboard. There was also no overload of technology, ADAS systems, backup cameras. None of that existed in this generation. It was a simple car, simple, easy to drive, no bonging lights, no weird alarms, no faults, no codes. And a lot of these cars were easily fixed by Joe's mechanic garage just around the corner, because they knew how to fix these old school 911s. But let's be honest, I love these cars. Look at, you've got the updated, this is the S style of rims on here. You could tell the taillights were carried directly from the 996, that carried right through to the 997. Here's a Carrera, so it's a naturally aspirated 3.6 liter engine with about 325 horsepower. Again, 6-speed manual gearbox in this particular car. Has nice fender flares, small mirrors. This was a Cabrio, of course, but down there we have the upgraded, enhanced version of the headlights, because the 996 had the fried egg headlights. These ones simply didn't. They had more of the old school, and this is what people love. This is why they were truly authentic and why it's one of the favorites. As the 991 came later, of course, it had turbos in the second generation of the 991 and all those electronic updates. That made this car a real standout in terms of authentic driving experience, and one that many enthusiasts really are trying to get their hands on. That's why you'll find 2009s to be extraordinarily expensive relative to even 05s and 06s, but all 997s were a beautiful car. And realistically, any 911 is going to be a great experience. Just some that have seen some mechanical issues, some that have had cosmetic problems or challenges. And in the 996, many people complained about the quality of the dash and the interior, whereas the 997's corrected some of those issues or potential issues. It's really more of a redesign. There's still a lot of plastic in the interior of these cars too, But again, that's the beauty. It's not an overload of technology, and it certainly isn't an overload of features to go wrong. Look, you get set of dual exhaust tips here. The Carrera, you get the nice painted bumperettes right there. And this Cabrio is a beautiful car to be driving around on a sunny day just like this. These are definitely a gem, and one of those I would strongly recommend looking at. When you're getting tired of all these technology heavy cars like Teslas and all these hybrid drivetrains and electric cars driving around, this here is a breath of fresh air and a car which truly does bring back the spirit of driving. Amazing summer car, low on tech, and fun to drive.